is Dajong or Dexen Z, and he's going to be talking to us today about his career path at the federal government and the CRA. He's a former student of Charmaine Dean and was part of the COVID-19 task force, which was the group designed just before the Mathematics for Public Health program. So in essence, he's a returning student who's moved on to the career world, and he's here today to tell us about his journey. So I leave it to you, sir.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone. So yes, I'm Dexen, and welcome to my talk today. As you can see, today we're going to talk about my career path. What I call it is my data analysis career at the federal government. And you can see underneath my name, it has a bunch of titles, but really, I'm just what nowadays they call it quantitative analyst. And I belong to this section called Business Intelligence Resource Center. It has several layers of hierarchy, and at the very end, you'll see that this comes from CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency. And there on the right-hand side, you can see this is the office that I typically works. Every day I go there. No, not every day. Every week I go there twice. This one lies in Vancouver. So currently I am in Vancouver. Looks pretty cool. Looks pretty nice. That's what I'm gonna basically talk about today. Oh, good. Next page. So here's a little bit background about my career path. I'm gonna briefly talk about each of those. I started with working in the government when I was in undergrad. So I did a co-op term back in Statistics Canada. And then, because I was in the doing undergrad in statistics, so therefore I thought, well, it's a good idea to move on. So therefore I did a graduate study. So finished my master, finished my PhD at Western University in Ontario, London. And then right after that, I decided, okay, where can I go? So I went to National Research Council. I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I get there. And eventually, after 2 years of fellowship, I landed at Canada Revenue Agency. So take a look at these places. On the right-hand side, you see this tall building over here. This is the building of Stats Canada. If you've ever been there, this is where I used to be working at back in 10 years ago. And then this is a picture of our beautiful Western University. This is where the Department of Mathematics lies. Looks pretty traditional, right? I like it. But our building was another one. And this here on the bottom, guess what it is? Looks like a big machinery. Yes, it is. So what do we do? This is actually a furnace. It is the furnace of the fire safety unit where I work at. There they can do experiments and test how things are burned. So I guess it's a very cool picture, so I put it there to get you a basically a sense of what each place is all about. And right now, the main part of this talk is going to be me talking about two tasks or two projects that I have been involved here at Canada Revenue Agency. One is about working on a cost sharing model. So this is like you have different ways to pay for ourselves. So how can we share the cost? And next, I'm going to talk about how I introduced something called Power BI, if you ever heard about it. Microsoft Power BI, a data visualization tool to the agency so that they can use the tool to share their data analysis results. Okay, so let's begin the journey. Stats Canada. Stats Canada is a place that my undergrad university has a strong connection to. My undergrad was at San Francisco University. I'm from the Department of Statistics and Actuarial Science. And over there, they have co-op programs for undergraduate students. And I was there because I think, Dexen, why are you there, right? Why do you want to apply for a co-op? Well, as an undergrad kid, I have no idea where I'm gonna be after that many years. So I think I may need a job. It's not like anyone will feed me. I have to feed myself. So therefore, I decided, well, the best thing that I can approach at that moment is to get a co-op. Yes, some people probably, they went with for a research fellowship or something like research assistant, right? Like RA. However, at that moment, my program was more applied. So they prepared us for the working place. We even need to do a minor in another field. And the minor that I took at that moment was business administration. So these things basically shape like where I am today. But at that moment, 10 years ago, I had no idea like how important that was. So what did you do there at Stats Canada? Well, in that big tall building, almost everyone or almost every analyst, we were using this program called SAS. It looks like something there at the right-hand side. It's a basic screenshot. You write code, and the code that you sometimes use, or like I use, is called SQL. This is the code where you write to manipulate data sets. So specifically speaking, the project that I was doing under this methodology division was to do with statistical methodologies. And the method that we were doing specifically was a methodology that tries to suppress some of the fields in the data set. Because when you are publishing the data sets, you don't really want people to guess and figure out some of the essential parts to stop people doing that kind of reverse engineering. So that's called confidentiality issue. And there was an algorithm that our team developed. And at that moment, I had no idea, like, I was not able to figure out the algorithm myself. I kind of understand, okay, that's how it works. But really, all I need to do is just to test if this new algorithm works. How do you test it without truly understanding the algorithm? Are you able to go back into the theory, and then and analyzing it from a theoretical aspect? I don't have to. All I have to do is just test it using its data output. So in other words, on my left-hand side, I bring out the result from the previous algorithm. And on the right-hand side, I take a look at the result of this new algorithm. And I just compare. If the new algorithm produces, if the new result looks like the result from before, then the new algorithm works. Is it right? Is it wrong? We don't really care. As long as it's close enough, then it's good enough. That is something that I did back there at StatsCan. And as you can see, this work actually shaped my personal philosophy a little bit, because I realized that the importance of data and the importance of evidence-based decision sometimes can help us to tackle really difficult theoretical questions. And after that, after I get into graduate study, I realized that, hey, what I did was actually called research. And I realized research is very fun. And I realized that at the government, we can, the value equity and the diversity, different people from different backgrounds with different skills, knowledge sets, got hired into this place. And then we created a interdisciplinary community, which is this little team that you see over there. That's a bunch of students that were hired together during that year. I was over there behind, reading the haircut. So, and the last thing that realize about is that although our sky is at, it's pretty cold. So although it's a good place to work with, but is there a way that I can work at somewhere other than Ottawa? So keeping those questions and findings in my mind, I moved on. Then this should be changed to Western University. I moved on to Western University. I did all the way till the PhD at the Department of Statistics and Actuarial Science. And as you can see, there are around the right-hand side, that's our lab, that's Dr. Sherman Lin, there was the bunch of students there at the time, I was there at the end, still needs a haircut. So Dexen, why are you there? Are you there because you really like research? Are you there because you couldn't find a job? No. I was there simply because Sherman asked me to be her student. She values me. And that is what really made my decision. I would like to help, I would like to serve for the one who values me. And there's no reason for me to resist her invitation. It's like, at the end of the day, when my kids ask me, Daddy, why are you doing this? It's all because of these simple answers. It's nothing fancy. And because of this invitation, I stayed there for 6 years. 1 year, actually more than 6 years. Because of COVID, I gotta say extra year. So that's a long time. So what did you do there? As a PhD candidate in statistics, we again need to analyze data. And this time, the data was coming from another federal agency called Natural Resources Canada. If you ever follow the news, or if you've ever been to Canada for at least a year, you probably know that, there's this thing called wildfire in Canada. It happens every summer. It's wild. Yes, it is. So Natural Resources Canada, they collect this wildfire instance data. Every year they collect it, manage to facilitate the data, put them into spreadsheets so that we can analyze it. So if you take a look at what's there on the right-hand side, this is just a little screen capture from one of my publications back in the years. Here on the horizontal axis is the log of the duration of each fire. That's how long it takes us to stop the fire. And on the y-axis, that's the log of the size. That's how much area has been burned before the fire is stopped. And they're both in the log 10 base scale. And we try to understand what's going on behind this. And one thing that I did at the time was trying to classify them into groups, because if you can put things into groups, then it's much easier to say if this fire is extreme and extreme in both duration and size, then it's easy to classify and to talk about the characteristics of these fires. So over there, we developed innovative statistical models and the science models to do this kind of analysis. If you ever heard about joint modeling or finite mixture model, that's really what this is basically about. We can talk about this afterwards if you have interest in that. And besides my normal research, at PhD, we usually need to do TA-ship. But for me, at the moment, our department happened to be opening a statistical consulting service. They call it the Western Data Science Solutions. Sounds like a real. It was real. Sometimes we got to do paid job. That was really fun. And that really helped me with my future career. Helping different people from different departments, trying to understand what they need and trying to make things work. So what do I learn from this? First, universities are the best place for doing research. Like seriously, we have this whole lab, we have a supervisor, And we have the library that have access to all kinds of research papers and books. There's no other place in the world that's better than universities in terms of doing research. So in other words, if you are, if you are out of university, then the research is not that easy to do. And the research you're doing is probably something different. We'll talk about that later. And the second thing is that innovative mind is an asset. I mean, we have been innovated probably all the way through because we are in school and we take it as great. But once you left the school, we probably will realize that, hey, not many people are that innovative. Sometimes people want to stay conservative, and they have a good reason for doing so. And only we, who are researchers, are trained to have an innovative mind. This became really important for my work later and even now. Last but not least, I miss Western. It is a really important part of my life, but we have to move on. So when I was graduated, that was during the year of 2020, near the end. That was still during the pandemic. Nobody can easily travel around. So what should I do? Well, just near the end, one of my supervisors sent me an email saying that, hey, Dexen, if you are doing this fire stuff, there is this place called National Research Council. It is another research organization at Ottawa, but it is also a government. It's part of the government. So over there, it's called the Fire Safety Unit under the Construction Research Center. So as you can see, it is under a construction research center. Most of them are engineers, and not many of them knows how to do statistics. Not many of them knows how to analyze data. So I happened to be the very first one that they hired as a data scientist, they call it. Although I'm nowhere close to a real data scientist. So my title was a research associate, just like a postdoctoral associate. It was a 2-year term, which means after 2 years, I have to think about what to do. So, Dexen, why do you take that? Do you really like doing research? Do you really like a 2-year term? I had no choice. I really need the job after I graduate. Otherwise, how can I pay my rent? How can I, what my wife will say? Dexen, we're gonna have to spend like a whole year finding a job. I already had a kid who was 4 years old at the time. I cannot afford to spend more time wandering around. Therefore, I took it. And it happens to be a good journey. Over there, they have a data set called the National Fire Information Database. It's also something that they have developed from a research initiative. And this is about all kinds of fires in Canada, and especially about fires from commercial and residential buildings. So imagine if, nowadays we are building a lot of high-rise buildings, and if there's a fire safety issue, and fire department needs to get into that, those things will play data sets. And on the other hand, nowadays we have lots of people, and the cities are starting moving into the wildfire urban interface. This is where the mountain area, where the fire safety is becoming a serious issue. So over there, this team called the Fire Safety Unit, they do research. They try to study and analyze what kind of activity, what kind of actions that they can do in order to make an impact to the world. So as you can see the difference here. The research is slowly shifting from just publishing paper onto journals towards making an impact to the world. That's because most of these people here at NRC, they were coming from having an engineering background. And engineers, they do real things for the world. They not just publish paper. Of course, we statisticians also impact the real world, but at school, from statistics department, we really need to think about how to get things published onto a journal first. So taking this difference, I start to get involved in more real world jobs or tasks. Another thing that I did over there was that we purchased GIS data that is really just cell phone data of all the cell phone users, like where they are, at what time, their location, their movement, and we purchased those data from people or from the data vendor, and the data vendor has data for people from wildfire evacuation events. Like, suppose there was a poor McMurray and California fire, those fire events, and people are evacuating, then they will produce this kind of data. That's huge amount of data, like terabytes of data. And they are stored not just in Excel spreadsheet, and there's no way we can receive this from emails. So they rely on this thing called Amazon S3 Cloud Service to do the file transfer. And I learned a little bit about doing that. And at this moment, at Canada Revenue Agency, this is actually the future that we are going towards, right? We are also going into cloud, but we're not there yet. So this little knowledge is still in my pocket, it's my skill set. And someday in the future, I probably will make use of it. And last but not least, I served as a mini project manager. So although that project was just a little research about thinking about, how the policies related to building fires has become. But it was a project, and someone has to do all the documentations and admin works of those. So I got assigned to do this. I didn't finish it because I only had 2 years, and that kicked in halfway through, but it was a good experience. So what do I got up from this? First, good data or projects, they are in the industry, but it's really hard to get. And the other thing is that how can I make innovation happen? Yes, we can make innovation happen on paper, but what's going to be happening next? Are we able to move on? So taking all of those things in my mind, I move on. I moved on to Canadian Revenue Agency. So the first thing that I did over there was a working group for cost sharing model review. So a little bit background about Canada Revenue Agency here. It starts, first of all, I am a quantitative analyst under the BI Resource Center. And where is this resource center? Well, on the right-hand side, you can see this is all the branches that CRA has. On the left-hand side, those are the branches that's gonna work with Canadians and file their tax, file their benefits, file their complaints, all kind of things. However, on the right-hand side, there are other branches who are supporting CIA employees internally. For example, human resource, finance, IT departments, right? Universities also have them. And one of them is called Service, Innovation, and Integration Branch. This is where I am. And you can understand it as, like it's a branch that's gonna help almost everyone a little bit. And that's just like the nature of statistics, right? Like when you are doing research, almost every field, almost every data-related field needs a little bit of statistics. So I'm like, oh, this actually probably will fit me. And more importantly, this team that I'm working at, it's doing something called business intelligence. Business intelligence is really a fancy way of saying statistical data analysis software, because data is something that it's not PowerPoint, right? For PowerPoint, if you just type in anything into PowerPoint, it just shows the result right away. But statistical analysis software, you give them data and they will analyze and they will produce a result. So behind that, those software has what we call intelligence. So that's why people call it business intelligence. And our team, guess who's gonna, and at CRA, guess who's gonna grant access to these people, to the data. Our team will grant access to them. And if someone would like to ask for purchasing a new fancy software, who's gonna be the one that purchase that? We're gonna take the money from them and purchase that. We don't have money from our pockets. So we are the ones that called we are the business providing business support as the owner of these PCI tools at the agency. And of course, after purchase the software, who's gonna maintain it? We're gonna maintain it. We're gonna talk about, hey guys, if you wanna use the software, please follow these rules. Rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. We're gonna do that. And if there is some confusion or conflicts or something needs to be changed, our team is trying to do our best to make it happen, but we only have got like 8 people on our team. So really, we are facilitating a whole group of these BI representatives from each branch to support the decision making of the whole agency. Okay, so Dexen, it seems that you are working for some kind of service job serving the whole branch. Yes, basically that's what I am. So why are you there? Well, it's a permanent job. Nobody can resist that. But at least at that moment, I cannot resist that. And also, the manager, he worked for StatsCan before. He worked for other places before. I'm like, hey, he looks like a good man. So therefore, I'm there. He is a good man. It's not just he looks like a good man. Okay, so could you show me a little bit about what you actually do? Yes, here is. This is an example of the BI environment. It's called the Netezza Performance Server, if you ever heard about it. It's just a typical database software. You see there on the left-hand side, there are the different databases that each team has at the agency. Our team is called DKB056. And over here, using the software, you can see how many tables we have. And if you want to see a specific table, you can start to write SQL code to see the code. Oh, so that's I understand. It's good to know SQL. Yes, it's good to know SQL, but you don't have to know SQL. Like for me, I use R to do this kind of thing. Like, that also works. We also have R here at CRA. We also have Python. We also have SAS. We also have SPSS, even though now Western's not using it anymore, but you still have it. So this is an example of the BI tools. And over here, I'm listing a table to see that, hey, these are the data sets that I have here on my workspace. They are created around this time. They occupy this much amount of space. So you don't really want to make this server too big, too full. It is too full, we need to clean it up. And that's part of our job for our team. Now, the thing is that who's going to pay? Well, I'm not going to pay, so everybody will pay a bit. Here you can see that this is a snapshot of some of the cost items associated with these BI environments. And here it's a list of those branches. The PO branch, audit branch, whatever branch, and we are here. So based on the computation time spent on the server. We're just gonna distribute the cost. Now, on the other hand, if you have these tools like software, SaaS, it's kind of hard to tell how much time people have spent on SaaS. So therefore, they just use the percentage of users who have SaaS in their branch to allocate cost. That's what has been happening during the past 2 years. Seems to be fine. However, as you can see, it has limitations. First of all, there's always the argument that, hey, both the computation time and the number of people matters. So the number of the server user may also matter, but it's not there in the model. The other thing is that even though we are charging people by how much time they spend on doing the computation, it's really hard to control and manage my computation time because when a code got to execute, just has to execute. You have no idea how long it will take after it's been executed. And last but not least, actually the most important thing is that other cost drivers may appear. For example, the whole reason being that we have been upgrading this server. Like you see here, there's a cost item like 3 million something for this NPS upgrade. Why are we upgrading? Is it because it's too slow? No, it's not. It's actually because people are using it as a free storage space. So it's full. And people should not be doing this. It's just like my cabinet there in my bedroom. Every year we need to clean clothes. We need to throw trash out of that. But if people are not doing a good job on doing that, guess what? We're just gonna have to buy more storage. So this is a big factor that we need to take consideration into. Good thing is that at the moment, when we were doing this last year, there were success stories that NPS workspace has been offloaded. Our team worked with the IT department from the IT branch. We spend time and go into people's workspace, ask them, hey, can we throw that? Hey, do you still need that? And we did a cleanup. We did the success stories. And this creates incentive, and we can make those success stories into incentives for workspace governance. So in other words, if you gotta keep your workspace clean, you can pay less. That's the whole point. And guess what? This is just a small step, and it will become an indication for the DI environment renewal in general. We cannot stay like this forever. We have to move on, and this is a good opportunity. Otherwise, how can you get on the cloud, right? If you are using a cloud service, every bit counts for money. So this is a good practice before we can move on to the cloud. Okay, then what do? Well, then let's just take these things all together. So here I developed, this is where my actual expertise kicks in. I go back into my R, get all the data set of the user behaviors, analyze them, clean them, summarize them. You're not gonna see this. It's work behind that. And at the end of the day, this is the presentation. I present my result to them saying that, look, this is total amount of CPU computation time. That's the allocated terabytes in terms of the workspace storage, and that's the number of users. Different branches have different percentages. Let's all averaging them together into a blended percentage. Aha, that makes more sense. Not only that, sometimes people say that, oh, by the way, like for this branch, it has 8.6% of allocation terabytes. Seems to be big, but there are not many. They're only having 1% of the people. And then it's also a new concept, and people are afraid of bringing new concept. Then don't worry, we can shrink down the impact of this weighting by half and scale up the impact of the existing weighting by another half, so that we're having a weighted average model. And everyone there at the agency have at least a little bit of high school mathematics, they can understand that. So this method has a good chance to work. Therefore, this method has a good chance to be accepted. But is that enough? No, that's not enough. Like I said before, if you have a good innovation, how can you let people accept it? Do you just bring it to the boss, bring it to the executives, and then tell them that, hey, this is the innovation. Please tell everyone to accept it. That's not going to work. The boss don't have the power to tell everyone to accept it. It is our responsibility to go back to the community and tell them about our innovation. And if these user representatives, they are okay with my innovation, then there's no reason for the executives to say no to our innovation. Therefore, we had this BI representatives maintaining all the way through by our team. It's basically a collection of experts from each branch who can do data analysis. And we form a working group. The working group has about how many people here? 28 people. We had meetings. I presented my results to them, just like now I'm presenting my result to you guys. And then they will bring me feedback, just like you're gonna give me some feedback at the end. And at the end of the day, well, after doing this several times, we're gonna reach a consensus. So my team formed this tool and I asked for their opinion. And he was doing this strategically. He's not doing it in a way that you either like A or they like B, and you can only choose one. He put it in a way that, hey, do you like the old method? Yes or no? And do you like the new method? Yes or no? And you can expect this way, if people don't have to fall into the dilemma of have to choose one or not. And guess what people are doing? People are like, I'm okay with either one. And that's true. If that's the case, then when we are moving on to the innovation, we're not going to receive lots of resistance. If a lot of people are saying no over here, like they are resisting the new one, then that's a become an issue. But this is not happening. That gave us the confidence saying that, okay, let's bring it to the executives. And guess what? It worked. It got approved. Executives as well, sure. Well, they didn't say anything actually, so therefore it just got approved. So that's the main job I have been involved with. And that's the kind of typical job, each data analyst, what they call quantitative analysts, will be doing at the agency. Each branch will have some quantitative analysts, and they do all kinds of jobs. It's basically like this kind of thing. It's just that for our group, we are supporting. We are the service and support, and we care about these BI tools. Now, another project about the BI tool is a Power BI. This is a data visualization software that we recently brought into our agency last year. It's a good stuff, it's a good toy, but how to play that? Someone will have to be there and then teach people, hey, if you want to play with it, this is how you play with it. The IT branch will not do that because IT branch, they are so busy. They are there trying to make things happen. They are the ones who are really there doing the work. Someone's going to have to do the presentation, just like I'm doing now. Guess what? I'm doing that. Our team's doing that. So we started with a series of R workshops when I first joined because R was there in the first place before Power BI. When I get there, I realized that, hey, there are so many R users, but we never did a workshop teaching them how to do that. So I offered a series of free workshops. If you offer people free stuff, guess what? They're going to come back. So that's a little bit strategy here at the first place when I was doing that. And when they come back, I gave them a tech talk to introduce Power BI. So this is one of the slides I gave them. It's very intuitive. I purposely, drew the line in the way to reflect that, hey, this is just my personal thought, it's nothing written in stone. But if you try to understand these BI tools, you can understand it as some of the tools you need assistance, and some of the tools you can do self-service. This Power BI is somewhere in between. You can do the data visualization part by yourself, but at the end of the day, when you're uploading this onto the server and share it with others, you are getting into a public area, so you better ask some experts to do that for you at the agency. So I also have a technical slides like this. It compares Power BI with one of the existing data visualization tools. It's not even data visualization. This is reporting. There's one of the other reporting tool that we have been using all the way through. And I show them that there's an old reporting tool. You need to rely on IT professionals to develop the packages. And then the users can only unpack the packages to see the report. They cannot do it by themselves. And that is compared to Power BI, where the users can start to create the dashboards, to create the reports, and then they put it together and then let the professionals to publish it. So see, doing this comparison will make people understand, oh, okay, that's what we have been doing before, and this is what we're going to be doing now. It has similarities, but it also has differences. It's much more effective to introduce innovation in this way. Same thing, right? When we are writing our research paper, we always have to do literature review and compare with those literature review with my proposed methodology. It's the same strategy over here. And now what? And then I'm just gonna have to feed the knowledge to them step by step. People are lazy, people are busy. You're just gonna have to show them, look, click the link over here. This is the guide, bring it up and just try the example in the guide. These things are prepared by the IT branch already, but so many people are not even aware that they exist. I just need to tell them that they exist. And also, it's better for me to bring a demo showing them that, hey, take a look. After you publish this thing onto the web page, you can open it onto the server. You can use a web browser to open it up, and this is what it looks like. You can click upload, and then you can click the dot to add it to your report, and then you can manage your report. Don't click this button, it's not for you. It's just gonna have to make it simple, make it intuitive, make it easy for everyone to follow. And at the end of the day, remember, it is this community that made all of these work happen. It is because we have a community so we can find those experts and form a working group to support decision making. And it is because there's a community so we're able to do this kind of workshop. So we have to promote this community, promote our team. So there I tell them this is the link, this is the Teams channel that we're having. We're having a Teams team, and we even have a what we call a SharePoint page that we recently produced. And that is how I finish my Power BI Talk workshop. So what have I learned, Dexen? Well, simple stuff. First, I realized that expertise really matters. We are all PhD here. We take PhD as granted, but really, when you get into the workplace, it's rare to see a PhD. And if you have a PhD, make use of it. People will listen to your expertise consultation. And not only that, I can present my analysis well. I can just do presentation like this. So I will be the one doing this. But I cannot do everything. In terms of the individuals, my manager is more experienced. He knows the people over there. He has been working with them. So he can tackle the individuals. And I leave this to my team to do it. Oh, there's a chat. Once I can finish, feel free to type a question here or raise your hand. Yep. So Expertise matters. Make good use of your expertise. Knowing what it can do and knowing what it cannot do is crucial. And second, evidence matters. You get into the working place, get into the real world, you realize that, wait a second, not everyone is making their judgment based on evidence. Many people are making their judgment based on their personal preference. And if you do that, when different preference get together, people will have conflict, and there's no way to get anywhere. Like I said before, some people prefer to use the number of people who are using the software. And some people prefer like using the time that they spend on doing this custom software computation, right? It's different perspectives. So therefore, we're just going to have to rely on evidence and seeing that what we have done before and what is the most important thing at this moment, what are some success stories that just happened. So this is not just evidence, it's not just about data. Evidence is about success stories. And still, we are human beings. Even though what I said, or even though what we said might be correct, it's hard for people to accept something so correct, but it's so different from their preference. So we're just gonna have to take one small step, one at a time, and make it out of this. That's how innovation really happens in the workplace. Last but not least, how to make this easy? Well, help with the community. We have a group of BI representatives, and we have a whole procedure of doing this. And eventually, we can collaborate and form a consensus. So if you found a job like me today and have some time, feel free to come back to Fields Institute, give a talk, share your success story, and help the community. That is everything I would like to talk. And now it is the chance for you guys to ask questions and form this community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dexen.
Thank you.